And our word for today on this Thursday, the 22nd week in Ordinary Time, this Thursday, September the 5th, our word for today is belongs. Belongs our word for today. And here to talk about it is Andrew Reinhart. Good morning, Andrew.
Hey, Andrew.
Good morning, Dave and Ron. How are you guys?
Great.
Doing great. How are you?
Doing great.
Good.
Our word for the day is belongs. This time from our psalm response. To the Lord belongs the earth and all that fills it. To the Lord belongs the earth and all that fills it. So this is interesting. This idea of the earth belonging to the Lord, this idea, it really casts out a few heresies that can run deep in our society. One heresy that's kind of replete in the contemporary space is the idea of pantheism, the idea that the creation is the Lord, that the universe is God. And this idea that the universe belongs to God sort of instantaneously refutes that, right? That the universe is separate from God. But in the way that evil does work, it's typically schizophrenic in a way. It pushes us to extremes and then makes us waffle between the extremes. Oftentimes, another heresy called deism is active in our culture. And this idea is that, while, God does exist, he's not really involved in his creation. God's the sort of the source of everything and the creator of the laws. But once God created everything, he kind of winds it up like a clock or one of those little toys with a twist on it that makes it run. Right? So God kind of set everything in motion, and now he's no longer involved. He's distant. He's far. There's no such thing as miracles. And these two ideas of pantheism and deism are really I think the prevailing modes by which our culture understands God, one way or the other, or oftentimes in people's minds, both mixed together in an unreflective way. But this Christian idea that the Lord is the creator and the creation belongs to him, and he remains involved in his creation through governance and providence, right? These specific ideas. So God is present to his creation, one, through knowledge, he's all-knowing, two, through his love, his providence, his caring for his creation, and three, through his presence, through his immanence with it all. But the creation itself remains separate from him. Right? This idea, we might call this a biblical worldview, that we see the world through the lens by which the Scripture presents it to us. There's other thinkers in our time that reflect on the reality that we're switching in our society between a Christendom mode of society where generally Christian values form the society and the decisions that the great institutions in the society make, like the government, the universities, the corporations, to a more of an apostolic age, where Christianity is no longer at the center of thought in our society. So we could expect that our government, the great institutions like universities and corporations, that their decision-making is using values and modes of thought that are not Christian. So within this apostolic age, Father Ricardo, who was just mentioned for his rescue project, which is a great tool for this actually, is the Acts 29's first principle for renewal in the church is the recovery, the rediscovery, the reclaiming of a biblical worldview. Or another way of this would be saying, what is your imaginative lens by which you understand the world? Right? Pope St. John Paul II and Pope Benedict XVI echoed this idea of a lens. What's the lens through which you view reality? Right? What's the foil? And I think the pandemic we went through a few years ago was a great truth teller in this space. Look at people's social media posts. Were these people Republicans who happen to be Christian, or Democrats who happen to be Christian, meaning they use the categories, the forms, the ways of thinking from their political party to judge the church? Or were they Catholics who happen to be Democrat or Republican? Meaning they use the forms, the ways of thinking, the categories, the thoughts of the church to judge their political party. Right? This is a gut check for all of us, especially in an election season. But the world belongs to the Lord. So when we read the Scripture, there's a fundamental posture in the people. Either the people act like God's the Lord of the universe, or they don't. The ones that do walk forward in trust are images of Abram going out into the wilderness or Moses going out into the wilderness, trusting that the Lord will provide, as opposed to the great societies of the ancient world that acted like it all belonged to them. And that's what happened in our gospel today. The fishermen, when they went out and they trusted in the Lord's word, in spite of their knowledge, in spite of their wisdom, in spite of the foolishness to the world that our first reading talks about, they get the great catch. So today we have to ask ourselves, are we walking in that biblical worldview, trusting in the Lord that this all belongs to him, or are we not? So our word for the day is belongs.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Andrew. And a reminder, not the first apostolic age. We've got a testimony we can follow. Thank you, Andrew.